Hi, everyone. TJ Ald's I-45 now. Even now, so many years later, after the May 2018 mass murder that happened at Santa Fe High School, the wounds are still there. A trial has not happened, and many folks are still struggling with what had happened on that tragic day. One of the people that's out there that's documenting this, and a new documentary due out a little bit later this month, is Charlie Minn, a documentarian who is created a movie called The Kids of Santa Fe, and he joins us right now. And Charlie, thanks for coming on with us here to talk about the movie you're working on. Let me just first ask you, what drew you specifically? Because there are mass shootings at schools that have happened, almost monthly in many cases across the country. But what drew you to this one specifically to make your film on?
My films represent innocent people who have been murdered, so this would certainly fit under that. The Santa Fe High School mass shooting, I felt, was tremendously overlooked, unknown, and swept under the rug. And yes, we know something horrible happened inside that high school, but no one can really get specific, and that's the key word here, is specific. Let's underline that word 25 times. So what this film is going to bring is transparency, some information. The parents have been angered by the lack of transparency and information, and documentaries are meant to inform, educate, and raise awareness for solutions, for social justice, for change, for impact. And that's why I'm here, is to inform, educate, and raise awareness, and hopefully this documentary will do all that.
Obviously, too, a lot of that lack of transparency has come because the investigation not being able to go to trial, as the accused shooter here is in a mental hospital right now, had been declared by a judge and three mental health experts that unfit to stand trial. What, as you have talked to folks in the community, and you've been working on this since the spring, as you have talked to folks in the community, what do they say toward the fact that because of that, there's no information coming out? What are they sharing with you that maybe folks haven't heard in the community that they're going to be able, if they go and see this movie, to get that story from?
A couple of things here. Everyone that I've talked to about the criminal, the killer, who again admitted to shooting all of his high school classmates, 23 people were shot total, couple of educators. They all think that he's faking his incompetency. So let's just get that out of the way right now. And in terms of information and transparency, the only way to get it is through hard work, is through digging and grinding and scratching and clawing. And that's exactly what I did. I exercised the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and that is to talk to people, talk to witnesses, talk to people that were there, people who were shot. And that's what I'm doing. I'm exercising my freedom of speech, and so are the people that are talking to me. And boy, oh boy, this film is going to be explosive. It's going to pack a wallop. And I think a lot of people are going to come out and watch this thing because the information is there.
And who all have you talked to that from that day? Kind of give us a perspective, as this is a piece that we did with you earlier as you were recording one of your interviews. Who all have you talked to get this information?
Well, I tell you, I guess it goes right to the title of the movie, The Kids of Santa Fe. I talked to the kids of Santa Fe, the people that were in those two art rooms. I talked to family members, witnesses, people who had been shot, law enforcement. And when I say that, I mean a former law enforcement, John Barnes, who was the school resource officer who went towards the shooting and unfortunately was shot and was almost killed. So it's all there. I mean, I talked to the people that needed to be talked to. I listened to their stories. And I just cannot wait for this documentary to come out, because I know there's a lot of people in Galveston County, as well as Harris County, who are very curious about this thing because of the lack of transparency. Again, I'll say it again. We all know something horrible happened, but we cannot get specific. What truly went on inside those two art rooms? How come the media doesn't cover it that way? I mean, I'm a little confused by that. But what this documentary is going to do is when, where, why, how. It's going to be a complete, in-depth, play-by-play, blow-by-blow analysis, I was able to get timestamps. I was able to really construct sequence of shots. I was able to talk to someone who processed the crime scene and told me exactly how many times each person was shot, where their body was found. This is a breakdown, a complete analysis of what went down that morning at Santa Fe High School. People in Galveston County deserve the truth.
When you say you've got a lot of these details that many have not been released by authorities, and how were you able to get this information from these folks that were involved? Many of them who are, while not under a gag order, have been asked by prosecutors not to divulge this information.
You know, TJ, hard work, grinding it out, asking people, would you like to sit down and talk to me? And they said yes. Nobody was forced. Nobody was bothered. It's not like I made, even 2 inquiries. I made an inquiry. People sat down with me and they exercised their freedom of speech. So if they're going to agree to sit down with me and tell me their stories, then I'll be sure to do the right job for them and tell their stories in the right manner.
For those of you just joining us, Charlie Minn is a documentarian. He has created a movie called The Kids of Santa Fe. It takes a detailed look at the mass murder that happened at Santa Fe High School in May 2018. You had said that your movies are about giving voices to those who were victims in this. Is there a specific reason why that's the type of documentary that you wanted to present here? I mean, do you have something from your own background that you say, I want to tell the story because it didn't happen in my life or something like that? Or is it just you felt that the story needed to be told and that's why you were drawn to this?
I would say a combination of the above. My whole life I always felt like an underdog, and most of my films deal with underdogs, people that get overlooked, people that need a voice. I think about the pain that the parents are going through each and every day, losing their kid. Nothing could be worse than that feeling of living with the fact that your child was murdered. And there's no word in the English dictionary for that. We have widow, we have orphan, but we don't have a word for a parent who loses their kid. And because of that, there's less of a connection to those people who wake up every day in intense pain. So this film is for the victims, it's for the survivors, for the family members, and for the community. And as I said, I just cannot wait for this film to come out. And I do want to stress that the title of the film, yes, is The Kids of Santa Fe, but it's also, the title also has the words, the largest unknown mass shooting. And let's underline the word unknown 30 times. Because again, we all know something horrible happened, but we cannot get specific. And I'm going to go as far as saying even people in Santa Fe cannot get specific about what truly went. I mean, again, I keep asking that question. What really went on inside those 2 art rooms? What truly happened, minute by minute? And there's a lot of blame to go around here. There's a lot of problems here. I'm a result-driven guy. I go by the result. I don't go by what we tried to do, what we wanted to do, what we hoped to do, what we intended to do. All that to me doesn't add up. It's the result. What happened at the end? And the ending was horrific. You cannot have 23 people get shot at a high school. You cannot allow a kid to be walking around with a Born to Kill t-shirt on, to be wearing a trench coat in Houston when it's 90 degrees outside for weeks. That just cannot happen. That's laziness. That's apathy. Parents have to speak out more. They have to be more active because your kid could be next. I mean, today, when you send your kid to school, I don't know if they're being sent to school to get an education or to get shot. You tell me. We need more activists in our country because the number of innocent people being wiped out today is absolutely unbelievable. It's a joke. I don't know where our country is headed. In Houston this year, help me out here, TJ. The murder rate has skyrocketed.
Yeah, and you even have to get into Houston. Yeah, you can just talking to in nearby Santa Fe and communities such as Dickinson, Texas City, Hitchcock, Lamarck, Friendswood, even now that goes along the way. You obviously you're bringing a lot of passion to this, and you bring up a point that, quite frankly, we've heard from family members too, who said, I was lax in paying attention to what was happening in the school before, but now they do, and it stirred many people. But then it becomes, as the more time passes, you see it kind of fade. The packed school board meetings that were happening soon after this, where people were calling for metal detectors and other security measures, you don't see those anymore outside of a handful of people. What do you think, as you've looked at this and describe it of the general apathy, it seems, with something so tragic, why it doesn't seem to start, the lack of a better term, a movement that's sustained to do something about it better? Whatever that may be. And of course, that may be part of the problem, is finding the actual answer to solve these things.
I wish I had a quick solution for you, TJ. If it was that easy, I would do it. But the key word is solution here. I'm sick and tired of, after a mass shooting, everyone always wants to know, oh, what was the motive? Oh, who cares what the motive was? We need a solution. We need a solution. What's the solution here? We need more activists. Majority rules. More people have to speak out. We just can't have a select few speak out all the time. We need more people. When given the news that there was a mass shooting, most people just go like this. You ready? They just go, oh, that's terrible. What's for lunch today? I mean, they just forget about it. Unless it happens to them, they just give you that normal reaction. Oh, that's horrible. Oh, what's for dinner tonight? I mean, we need more activists. We need more people to speak up. And today, with social media just exploding like crazy, there's no reason why more movements cannot be started to prevent innocent people from being murdered. We have too many people taking reactionary measures rather than preventive measures.
Yeah,
this is going to happen again, TJ. Let's face it. It's going to happen again at a high school. And the reason why we haven't seen any lately is because of the pandemic. There's just no in-person classroom lectures now. But just wait till things get back to normal. I'm telling you, people are angry over the pandemic, the lack of jobs, lack of opportunities. And what does that mean? That leads to crime. So, where I'm from, New York right now, it is an absolute war zone. It is Juarez, Mexico. It is a shooting gallery. I mean, Chicago, New York, the big cities, Houston even. You got to watch your back. And plus, being Asian American, my head is on a swivel right now because we're being attacked right now big time. Ever since our former president called it the Chinese virus, all Asians have to be on high alert. That's a fact.
And again, another kind of offset of that. And, you talked about there's going to be another shooting here. I mean, if you think about it, just 3 months after Florida, you have the Santa Fe shooting. It was, and then another after that. And as you said, the title of the movie also includes the largest unknown mass shooting. That is a common refrain we hear from a lot of folks in town as well, that complain that, all the media and all the attention was here in kind of the weeks after and on certain anniversaries. But even that has waned, and it didn't take long. Does it seem like the country's appetite for following these type of things and then doing something tends to just kind of disappear with the 24-hour news cycle that's out there, that once it's kind of run its course after 3 days, then that's pretty much it?
Yeah, I mean, we've become desensitized to mass shootings now. People are like, oh, which one was that? And I tell you, I've probably polled at least 100 people about the Santa Fe mass shooting. Not one person knew about it. Or they'll say, Santa Fe, New Mexico? That's probably the most common reply I get. People have heard of Parkland because, again, people spoke out. People became activists. Santa Fe, it's like people ran from it. It's like it was swept under the rug, and we examined that. I asked people in the movie, why did Parkland get a boatload of attention and Santa Fe hardly got any? So you'll hear that angle in the movie.
Talk about some of the what you learned from this, and I know you want to save some of this for when it released, or most of it from when this is released. But what were the things that you heard of? You said that folks are going to hear something they may have not heard about this case before. And what did you hear in your interviews that you went, wow, the most shocking? And you had told me just privately that you'd heard a lot, but what's the one thing that stands out in your mind of people have got to know this detail?
Well, at least, and again, at least one person bled out inside those art rooms, if not more. And police took 30 minutes before the shooter was arrested, and the shooter actually came outside, and and literally gave up. And if he did not do that, this thing could still be going on. Police did not do a good job that day. And again, I go by the result. Again, I'm result driven. I don't go by we did the best we could. That doesn't get things very far. What happened at the end? And because of Columbine over 20 years ago, law enforcement tactics have changed. You're supposed to address the target. That's why Parkland got so much heat, because the school resource officer there chickened out. And in this case, that did not happen with John Barnes. He was shot. He went towards the target. But my point being is, after that, the killer was basically doing whatever he wanted for half an hour. That's a long time, TJ, inside those 2 art rooms. And a killer should not be controlling the police. The police should be controlling the killer. And what good does it do to surround and contain? We have over 100 police officers outside Santa Fe High School surrounding and containing, when you have a maniac inside firing away. What good does that do? So I don't know if it's a strategy problem. I don't know if it's a guts problem. Again, the result. I keep saying I'm a result-driven guy. What happened at the end? It's almost like a sporting event. Who won? Who lost? I don't care what happened in the 6th inning. I don't care what happened in the 3rd quarter. It's the result. And the result is this. For half an hour, the killer controlled Santa Fe High School. He controlled the police. At least one person bled out inside. And I'd love to know eventually how many did end up bleeding out. In other words, had police gotten in there sooner, could more people have been saved? That's a big question that no one's asking. Why did it take 30 minutes? And again, this thing could have taken a lot longer had the killer not come out and surrendered. So there's a lot of problems here. And again, a lot of things people are not talking about. But this film will reveal all that. And again, I touched on it earlier. I talked to someone who processed the crime scene. You're going to know how many times each person was shot, where their body was found, the sequence of shots. I have timestamps, and I really go by that. I think timestamps are very important, where it's on a cell phone. One of the victims was texting his sister. They were going back and forth by texting, and all the timestamps are right there. And the information between the two, it's critical to establish a timeline.
And you had said you got to talk with students that were in the art room where most of the activity had taken place in the gunfire there. And as we look at your website here, it's called thekidsofsantafe.com. And again, August 31st at the Rosenberg Library in Galveston. It's free admission, but it's going to be limited seating there. So best to go online if you do want to see this, 6 p.m. that night. Tell us some about the folks you interviewed here that we see, and also in the video we saw earlier, in which when the day we had our crew by watching you do that. Tell us about some of the stories you heard from these students here that were there that day.
Sure. Which one would you like for me to discuss?
You pick them out yourself, Charlie. Just pick them out as you go.
Yeah. Well, a couple things. I do want to stress that after the Rosenberg Library on the 31st, the movie will open on September 10th. At the Premier Cinemas in Parkland, and also up in Tomball. My guess is most people in Galveston County will go to the Parkland location because it's a lot closer. And then also at the movie theater in Alvin, I believe it's called the Wellborn Cinemas. But to go back to your question here, if you look at the kid on the far right, Clayton Horn, Clay's story is amazing. He was in the first art room where the killer barged in. The killer literally went right up to him and put a shotgun right to him. And I'll let Clay tell his story. We'll save it for the movie on what exactly happened next. Obviously, he survived. Clay's recovery is unbelievable. A setback sets up a comeback. That's my favorite line in life. Clay Horn would epitomize that. He won my respect. He's a gutsy young man. And one of his quotes in the movie will stay with me forever. He said, he told his mom, when he was in the hospital after the shooting, he said, "Mom, everything I did before the shooting, I'm going to do again." So that's one of many powerful lines in the film. Clay is a pole vaulter, and even after the shooting, he continued to pole vault, and we have clips of him doing that. So his story is remarkable. If you look at some of the the females in the middle. The second one to the left, and her twin sister is the second one to the right. They were actually right next to one of the educators, Ann Perkins, and also Flo Rice, as they were running out of the school, out towards the outside. A fire alarm had been activated. So as they were walking out, gunfire was thrown towards them because the killer went out into the hallway briefly and shot towards these girls, along with the girl in the middle. And their stories are absolutely harrowing. The kid on the left was a kid that was literally just a few feet away from the shooting, and he actually sheltered a lot of the Santa Fe kids, maybe 10 to 15, at his house. The kids were frantic. They didn't know where to go, what to do. They weren't exactly sure what happened. And he was able to open up his home, and his mom, I guess, cooked a meal for all the people there while they were waiting for their parents to pick them up. So we have stories from different angles, different perspectives. And again, this film gets very specific. I do want to mention that a lot of lives could have been saved that day in the second art room, but the back door did not open for kids to escape. So that's why a bunch of kids were stuck in the closets, and that's why a bunch of kids were killed in the closets, because the back door did not open in the second art room, which is the second art room that the killer walked into. Now, what's interesting is that the first art room, the door that leads to the back area, the patio where you could hop a scale of fence and get away, that door originally did not open, but then someone was able to pry it open, and that's what led to a lot of people escaping. Had that first door did not open, in that first art room, the door towards the back, had that door not open, we would have been looking at probably maybe 20 casualties. And it probably would have been the largest high school mass shooting ever. Parkland, I think, is number 1 to this day. I think Columbine is 2 and Santa Fe is 3. But we talk about the back door in both art rooms and how that played a major role on whether kids escaped or not.
Yeah, a lot has been talked about that, in fact, of just how, what measures were in place for not only to keep any perpetrator out, but also to make sure students get away. We talked to many who did get out and climbed over that fence. That you mentioned, and some even leaving items of clothing behind as they ran. And I remember a story of a young man and his girlfriend who, they held hands the whole time they were running away. Should point out Clay Horn was shot twice in that day and survived. And we've interviewed him. He is, I will say this, he's an inspirational guy, as you pointed out. I agree with you on that. He's something else.
The most beautiful part of a human being, TJ, is guts. And this guy has excessive guts. And amazing. His story alone should have people come out. And I was honored that he told me his story. He hasn't told it to many people, as you know. He hasn't talked to many people. So people are going to hear from people they've never heard from in this movie. And again, I really try to get specific because you guys deserve the truth. You guys deserve information. And I've always said the second most important thing in life after your health is information. It's amazing how your life can change if you only have the information. How many people in life say every day, "Oh, now you tell me. Oh, if I only knew." Right? Information. And you and I are in the information business, TJ. I mean, we need information. And how do you get that information? You grind it out and you ask specific questions. You can't ask safe questions. That does nothing. This is a difficult topic. And of course, a difficult topic is going to require difficult questions. It's okay to have a difficult conversation. If you have a difficult conversation, that's going to lead to change and impact. You can't always play it safe.
Right.
You cannot always play it safe, TJ.
And you bring up a good point here, because in a town that, quite frankly, became resentful of the media, and to this day, a lot of those wounds from there, even more recently with a scandal that broke out with the mayor bringing out false information, and also just in a rant online. But I just wonder, how many folks turned you away as you tried to tell the story along the way as well. I mean, you had a lot to participate, but I'm sure you had a lot of no's as well.
A few, yeah, quite a few. And I've always said, if you don't speak up, if you don't talk, then nothing will change. I stand by that to this day. And just to go back to the mayor, you were talking about the mayor earlier. I don't know the mayor. I've never met him. And all I can say is this about what happened, because obviously I know about what he said and what he did. Coming from the mayor, let's underline the mayor 30 times. That's unbelievable. Coming from the mayor who sets the tone, is the leader, says something like that. I mean, it's not like he was talking about something fun like sports. He's talking about the most significant story, a tragedy in the history of his town, of Galveston County, if not maybe the Houston area. And this is coming from the mayor. Okay, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it deserves more. I don't think it deserves any more than that. All right.
Yeah.
So,
and there's enough of that.
You were asking me about people not participating. TJ, I got just enough in this film where the information is there. We have roughly 5 people that interviewed in the movie that was in the first art room where the killer barged in. That's critical because that's what started it all. We literally talked to a kid who was sitting next to one of the 3 girls that was murdered immediately. He missed death by an inch. I kid you not. His interview to me was so important that I flew him in from Louisiana. I had to get him in the movie. The audience has to hear it. And then in the second art room, I was able to get 2 people. I wish I got more. If anyone listening right now wants to be in the movie that was in the second art room that the killer walked into, there's still a little bit of time for me to get you in the movie. Now, I was able to get someone that escaped from the second art room and someone that was trapped inside one of the closets for half an hour. That was the ceramics room, aka the kill closet. So I was able to get coverage everywhere.
Right.
And earlier we talked about kids hopping the wall and escaping. That has never been accentuated enough. Was the incredible escapability of the kids. About 2/3 of the students got out of there that morning, and their guts, their courage to get the heck out of there, their escapability has never really been credited. Incredible guts shown by the kids of Santa Fe, and I love those kids for their bravery that day, because again, guts turns me on. It really turns me on. If you show me guts, you won my respect for life.
I wondered too, based on what you had talked about on response time, how procedures were or policies were followed through in the school, how much of this, obviously we're not going to take away with the fact that there's a murderer here, but how much of this is a system contributor to, where the institutions that are supposed to protect us and students and our families and the like, that there was a failure there? Because I'm hearing that a lot from you too, it seems, as well. And I just want to have you address that specifically. You talked about police response time or law enforcement response time. You talked about not following policies of, someone wearing the t-shirt and the jacket in the middle of of May, of how much institutions just failed here, dropped the ball.
Listen, again, I go by the result. This was a failure across the board. Again, at the end, the killer is responsible. Let me get that out of the way. The killer is a jackass. He's a criminal. He should rot in prison, period. Okay? With that said, there's plenty of other blame to go around. The apathy, the laziness, the structure, the lack of guts, the lack of balls to protect students. Again, I'll say this forever. Do students today go to school to get an education, or do they go to school to get shot? One family member I interviewed, Rosie Stone, who I have the utmost respect for. I mean, you talk about someone who's living in misery every single day, losing her son, Chris, her only son. And she had a quote. She said, "I wish I had done more." And she, in other words, she urges other parents to take more of an active role to make sure safety is a priority. And she said that, "Look at me now, because I didn't take that I wasn't that active about that. So she's encouraging other parents, don't be like me, because your kid, your son or daughter could be next. But this cannot go on for half an hour.
Right.
Police did not do a good job. Again, what does surround and contain do outside? Okay, what does surround and contain do when you have a killer firing inside? Can someone please answer that question for me? And this goes for a lot of mass shootings. Pulse nightclub in Orlando, the gay nightclub, that was over 3 hours. Parkland was a joke. Security there, the school resource officer chickening out. I did a movie about a 1984 massacre inside a McDonald's in San Diego. It's called 77 Minutes. Why? Because it took 77 minutes for the police to take down the shooter. We had a shooter hating Mexican people, walked into a McDonald's and was firing away for 77 minutes. So we obviously have a problem with police response when it comes to these shootings. Again, and I go by the result, and I want to be clear here. I have absolutely nothing against police. Some of my best friends are policemen. I'm not anti-police. I'm anti-injustice. One of my best films is about a policeman. How could I be anti-police if I made a film about a policeman? It's called Mexico's Bravest Man. It's called Mexico's Bravest Man. It's one of 20 films I put on Amazon Prime. It's about the former Juarez and Tijuana police chief in Mexico who survived 8 assassination attempts and lowered the murder rate in both cities, in Juarez and Tijuana. So again, I just want to make that point clear. I'm not anti-police. I'm anti-injustice. If a police does a good job and shows guts and balls, I will be the first one to point it out and even make a documentary about it. But if they do a poor job and innocent victims were murdered, well, they should be called out.
For those of you, we're coming to the end of the interview here, but Charlie Minn, he's a documentarian. He has made Kids of Santa Fe, and he's in the final stages of editing that movie. Now will be out the end of August, set to show in multiple places, starting with the Rosenberg Library in Galveston on the 31st of August, and then again on the 10th in Alvin on September 10th, I should say. Also in Pearland on the 10th as well, and then in Tomball, and then I'm sure you'll be lining up other locations. Let me ask you here before I ask you about what you hope folks will get from this movie. One thing that has come up somewhat, and I wanted to talk to you about this too, is the phone interview you did with the medical examiner, Aaron Barnhart, has gotten around, been some controversy with it about that. Can you explain how what information from that will go? Because that in many ways, you talk about getting information in hands, forced the medical examiner to give over some information to the families that had not been previously released from that. Can you talk about how that came about and what information you gained from that, and will it be in the movie as well?
I just made a simple inquiry. I was doing what I'm supposed to do as a filmmaker, and that's reach out to people. Dr. Barnhart is a heck of a human being. I actually did not sit down with her on camera. It was with an associate of hers, someone that works in the office. And that information I trust is going to be in the movie. And if I thought in any way it was going to compromise this upcoming trial in any fashion, I would never jeopardize that and put that in the movie. But I spoke to Dr. Barnhart and also one of the associates in her office. I do have one on-camera interview about that, and the information I feel is solid, and it's going to be in the film. And again, it's going to help with transparency and information. And I don't know if a trial is ever going to happen. I really don't. Some people think it's never going to happen. I have no idea, but I think if ever a tragedy, if ever a significant story needed a documentary, this one is it. Because of the lack of information and because of the torture that the families have had to live with for over 3 years now. And I think what this movie needed was an objective outsider to come in to look at this thing, to be as objective as possible. Because if someone from Santa Fe did this movie. I don't know. I just would have second thoughts about that. But being an objective outsider with no dog in the fight, I think those are the best people to bring in. A fresh pair of eyes who's determined, who's passionate, and who wants to get to the bottom of this thing and is result driven. So as long as I'm controlling it, people in Galveston County, Harris County, they're going to get the information, they're going to get transparency, and it's going to be done the right way.
And you bring up a good point. Sometimes it does take that outside perspective to bring the truth from the inside, and there's no doubt about that. You have to admire. That is, you said at the beginning of that of our conversation here. That's what documentarians do, by the way. A lot of information has come out about things over the years that if it had not been for someone who had kind of a more of an outside perspective and just being curious, that to bring it up. And so that goes into my last question to you then. What do you hope when someone sits down and watches this, whether they are from Santa Fe, from an adjacent community, know somebody was shot or a part of this or not, or if they're somewhere else in the country, what do you hope? What's the main thing you hope they get from watching this?
The truth, information, transparency, the truth for impact, for social justice, for change. And boy, does this country need change with all the innocent people being murdered. We need more people to speak up. We need more emotion. We need more passion. We need more results. We're trending in the wrong direction, TJ. Right now, as you and I are talking, someone's getting blown away in our country. A family member is going to get that phone call, and their lives will be forever altered. We're just sitting here. We're just sitting ducks right now, getting blown away by injustice, by a lack of activism. It's pathetic.
Charlie Minn, documentarian, The Kids of Santa Fe. He is finishing it up now. We should see it by the end of August. Charlie and I have taught, just to let our viewers know, we will, in partnership with him, just so folks get an understanding of here, because there's been a lot of talk, but not, folks haven't seen any final results. We'll be showing some clips leading up until the premiere here in the release, so that some folks can get a different perspective as well on this and along the lines. And again, it will be shown at the Rosenberg Library August 31st. You can go online to kidsofsantafe.com and reserve a seat. September 10th, it'll be shown in Alvin and Pearland, the Wellborn Cinemas in Alvin, the Premier Cinemas in Pearland, and then the Premier Cinemas in Tomball on September 10th as well. Should point that out, and and when there's anything else there.
And TJ, I want to point out that the movie theaters will run the movie for at least a week. So it starts on the 10th.
Sorry, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That you have gotten those movie theaters to agree to do that. It's one night only in Galveston, but a week long in Alvin, Pearland, and Tomball.
Minimum movie, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In coming about that. Charlie, thanks for coming on with us. I do appreciate it. And I will tell folks, Charlie and I have talked by email several times. This is actually the first time we've laid eyes on one another here. Chair. With the schedule that both of us have had, and it's been interesting to look at, to understand your process with this. We hope, as I say in these type of things with this, is that this is information that folks may want to know, and they may not. It's a tough subject that anyone will talk about ever in their lives, particularly if you're from the community. And it's one of those things that I'm not going to encourage one way or another, but it's I always tell folks, give people a voice, let them listen to it, and then go from there and make decisions. So Charlie, thanks for your time. We appreciate you.
You're very welcome.